Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Practice Perfect podcast. We are back. Very excited to be back post HealthCon, but it has been a little bit. I've been sick, and Maya, you've been crazy busy. How are things going in your world, Maya?
Oh my gosh. After HealthCon, I had to stay over for a client in Daytona Beach. It was
Ooh.
beautiful. Yeah, it's in Daytona and Ormond Beach are really close to each other. So I was there. Then that following Monday, I was in Sherman, Texas for another client. So shout out to Highland and shout out to Wakeman Chiropractic. So I have been extremely busy and I came back last Wednesday. So literally, I came back from HealthCon last Wednesday. So I've just been like, hey. So the jet lag is gone, but I'm still here. So it's a wonderful, wonderful thing to be busy, right? Especially as a consultant, so it's a good thing. It's definitely a good thing.
I love it. Well, being busy is great. I mean, obviously, it's better than the alternative. So that is great. I've been just busy with everyday things like the clients I do every day, just trying to keep up. Sometimes they throw me new things, and sometimes it's like, what do I do now? So I've been busy just
Yeah.
presenting. I looked at my calendar and I can't believe I think the month of June is the only month I'm not traveling the rest of the year. And then November and
Same.
December. It's crazy. I'm
Same.
just like, I can't even. How did this happen? I guess I just don't say no to enough people. Maybe I don't know.
Well, that's yeah, that's a KPI. That's what we do, KPI.
Yes, yes, exactly, exactly. And that's what we're here to talk about today. Is guys, KPIs is the name of the game. So we're going to talk about these fun little reports, and I think most of us know when we go into a billing system, a lot of them have these dashboards, right? That give you all kinds of pretty tables and numbers and all the data looks so pretty in some of these platforms, but what are we doing with it? That's my
Mhm,
problem,
mhm,
right?
mhm,
It's like we
mhm.
have all this data, but what are we doing with it? Is it just
Right.
there? Just like, oh, we have these great reports, and what are we going to do with them?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think an analysis, right, and key performance indicators are key to understanding the hemorrhages of your office. And a lot of times people call them productivity reports, they call them analysis, they call them, key performance indicators, but they all kind of translate to one thing. What is your office doing to ensure sustainability or sustainable revenue, right? And if your providers are making the mark, right? And if they're not, how do you do so? How do you do that?
Right. So in today's episode, we're going to discuss turning data into dollars, KPIs that actually matter.
Right,
That's the name
right,
of the game. The ones that actually matter.
right. And then not just any KPIs, like the ones that turn data into dollars, right? I mean, you have the dashboards, you have the analysis, you have the benchmarkings, you have the productivity, but how does that translate into making sure that your practice is sustaining revenue, right? And then on the other side is it compliant? Are they doing the right things? Did they complete the charts in time? Are they all signed before they went out the door? So those types of things you need to have, right? A management system to manage the performance of the revenue. And if you don't understand that, that becomes a problem because you're not understanding how to fix it when it is a problem.
Right, exactly. So, thinking of just examples of data we've worked on recently, where we look at the reports, and then of course the problem is we can't find the report that we need to have to do the job, right? Oh goodness, there's a nightmare. So sometimes that's the issue, is that the system is just kind of primitive and it's not really giving us the data that we need.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, mm, one of the things that I really am unsettled about is when these practices get these EMR systems or this practice management systems and they just tell them how to run the reports. They don't tell them what they mean. And
Right.
I cringe because honestly, if they knew how to run it, um, they would be more knowledgeable of where their dollars.
Exactly. Exactly. And so, I mean, I had a client once where, there was a huge patient volume, and you think, okay, well, you have a huge patient volume, you're making lots of money. But they were still struggling. And when you look at the report, now, according to what I saw in the system, over 18% denial rate, which wasn't great. That's a lot. But a lot of times what you're looking for on that report, that KPI is, okay, what caused denials, but even further than that, what payers are they coming from?
Yeah.
Because there may be a training issue, which a lot of times that's what it is. It's missing a modifier, or it's missing some data that the payer needs to process. Or we didn't read a policy from that payer and that was clearly available, but nobody knew about it. And this was going on for months and months and months with nobody looking at why these denials were there. We think about front end eligibility errors. I mean, we've seen that. What are some of the things, Maya, that you see on your report that you have 70% of these are registration and eligibility errors? What does that tell you?
Well, one, because don't get me started, Jen. I'm trying to contain myself because we put together lots of trainings for these offices, and if the front desk is considered minimal, right, and they don't know how to check eligibility or read eligibility or know when to collect copays, that's your check that you're missing when it's wrong. So why would you have anyone who doesn't care take in your check?
Yeah.
I'm just saying, if it's wrong on the front end, it's going to be wrong on the back end. Would you rather for it to be done right and someone to audit it up front than to wait until a claim is 120 days out and find out that the ID number is transposed? I'm just saying.
Oh gosh,
Or the
girl,
birth date is wrong. I'm just
I know, right? I mean, I remember back in the day when I was being trained and you had to learn all that stuff about the birth date. And if it was two insurances, whose birthday covers in the year, that's the primary. Like, you learn that stuff. I mean, and there was a lot of things that, I was trained to be a coder, but I decided to go into billing first because it was my way in. So I learned a lot about that stuff before I even got to the coding step. And I'm glad I did, because now I understand how important. So getting the coding right is just step one. Like, getting the data correct on my end is important, yes. But when it came to the billing side, it wasn't about the coding at all. It was about the patient whose bill you're going to send out. So for instance, you think about, okay, on a claim form, you have, of course, the provider's information at the bottom, the clinic information, which needs to be correct, obviously. And then you have, of course, at the top, you have basically their information, the patient information. In the middle, you have, of course, the actual codes and the data that was performed. But the top, everything starts at the top, right? Like, you start from the top and you go to the bottom, guys. Top is the most important information, because if you don't have the right person and you don't have the right claimant's data, that's what triggers the bill, guys, or the payment. Is the person whose actual profile they're pulling up. They've paid their premiums, hopefully. And so that's step one for them. Okay, this patient has coverage. And then they want to make sure it's the right patient. If it's not, if they can't verify it, they can't pay you for somebody they can't verify.
Absolutely. And not only that, Jen, but think about when the coordination of benefits is wrong. They put the primary as a secondary or the secondary as a primary. And that's where, girl, I'm trying my best. I'm trying. Okay. So I'm just saying, understanding that, like, I really do think before anyone is put in the front desk, they have to understand the revenue cycle and understand their value, right? Those key performance indicators is going to tell you if there was a claim issue that was related to COB, if it was a claim issue related to insurance verification. All of that is going to tell you that. And if it's wrong on the front end, that you're hemorrhaging money. I have worked on cases where revenue was reviewed and 25% of the large dollar amounts, especially when you're dealing with workman's comp or, injury cases, it's all eligibility. They put it in the wrong spot. They're billing the medical first. They're billing. You have to, girl, don't get me. I'm trying. This is like my hot spot. Do you hear me? Do you hear me, people? Do you hear me? Do you see my face? Girl, but it's just, I think it's one of those things where if it's wrong, it's going to be wrong. And if you're not training your front staff to care, or if you're hiring somebody because you think you're getting away with paying them minimal, if you're paying someone minimal, guess what? You're probably going to get minimal work.
Probably true.
Yes. In most instances, you're not taking a whole lot of time to train them because you're paying them minimal. But again, what you need is a solid indicator, a solid foundation, and to measure how they're doing by reviewing your key performance indicators. It's going to tell everything.
Exactly. Well, I mean, and there are some KPIs, we'll go into our next segment talking about which ones are the best to track and which ones really you don't really need to worry about. But let's focus on what we really want to talk about. Now, I have 3 that I kind of go by as a rule for most of my clients is I want to see, of course, the clean claim rate. I want to see how many claims went out clean, and then I want to see how many got rejected. I look at that a lot of times because that kind of tells me where my training needs to go. And then days of AR, obviously, want to see how many claims are at 30, 60, 90, 120. It's a standard report we all have to look at. And then I am big on denial rate by payer because I want to see which denials are the highest by payer because that's going to tell me if I have a problem. Now, sometimes it means, and maybe you did everything right, and maybe that's a payer who is just routinely denying all the time and you have an issue. We already had our episode on contracts, right? So we know what you need to do. You need to look at your contract and you need to hold them accountable if they're denying things they shouldn't. But that's a good way to place to start is to figure out which payers are routinely denying more than they should, at what rate are they denying, and then go to your contracts and figure out what you can do to kind of go after them for what they're failing to do. But you want to investigate the denials. Is it your team that's causing it because there's where you start, or is it a payer system error? Mm-hmm. So you got to figure out where to go first, and then the game plan.
Well, and you mentioned something that's really important, and as far as the EM distribution, I want to see what you're billing, right? I want to see how it's being billed, right? If you're billing all 99215s because you think that's supposed to be equated to the time, I'm knowing that you're missing billing because you think that you're doing all the work and you deserve a 99215 because of the work, right? Not true, folks. Not at all. But again, I look at that. I look at the audit accuracy. What is the level of service that you're billing? Is it actually true that that's what you bill? If you're billing all 99215s of your office because you think that's equating to work, we need to talk. Hello. Hey, me and Jen here. We that's our thing, right? And then, the no-show rate, that also is a factor. But one of the things that I really think that's important is understanding things like QMB, qualified Medicare beneficiaries, right?
Oh.
Because, you could have a bunch of dollars that is sitting out there, right? But if you think you're going to get money from Medicaid and you didn't do the adjustment from Medicare for your rates, and then you think you're going to get paid from Medicaid, you're wrong. It's inflating your AR. So that's a key performance indicator, especially if you got a lot of money sitting in Medicaid. Wrong. QMB does not allow for any provider to balance bill anyone. There's a method for all of this that translates. It's a reason it's called the Qualified Medicare Beneficiary Program. If you don't know about it, look it up. And some of the hottest things that are going on this year is the Advanced Primary Care Management Program. I just did a talk on that through Healthcare Trainer Leader. Shout out to them in this regard because it's related to qualified Medicare beneficiaries, and you could get money. However, you got to know how to check it. You got to know what it means. If you don't know what it means, you got a bigger problem.
Exactly. Well, I'm glad you mentioned the E&Ms. I was just thinking, you know, how many, like the one ortho group I was working with, how many they were underbilling. And a lot of it had to do with an overutilization in the past, because I went back and I looked at how many like 4s and 5s were billed by these providers in the past. So I think they were at a point where they were just trying to play it safe, but they were actually underbilling their E&Ms. So I mean, that was one of the biggest issues that there was. So after we did the documentation review, we found that, you know, they were spending a lot of time, and so maybe the time being documented and the difficulty in those patients would have been the best option for them to talk about. So I mean, again, we educated them, we provided templates, you know, giving them some ways around this lower level thought process. But again, the KPIs matter. They highlight where the issues are and where you need to go next with your education.
Agreed. Agreed. I think education to me is the gleaning factor for everything. KPIs equals opportunity for education, right? Once you know better, ideally you should do better. In some instances, when you don't listen, you have to do more than education. But prior and post, KPIs, indicators, educate, and then look at them again, and then see where that education has improved or not.
Absolutely. So thinking about, you know, now that we know like the KPIs we want to look at and we want to focus on, we got to build a response plan. We have to figure out what we're going to do now that we have this information. What are we going to do with it, girl? Like, what is the plan? So build a response plan. So you need to look at routine. How often should I look at the KPIs? I mean, I look at them. I mean, if I'm in a practice, I'm looking at them every day. I'm looking at them every week, like just maintaining some kind of semblance of understanding where my data is.
Right. I mean, and I guess, because key performance indicators to me is just a form of audits, right? You need to audit what's happened. You need to see what's happening. You need to do an analysis. See how your daily, your DAR, your daily accounts recovery, or I forget what the last one is. It's called the DAR report, daily account receivables, daily account receivables. It's the DARS report. Thank you. But those are the things that you look at. You know, you might not think that they're performance indicators. You might just think that they're reports. But the DAR report, the intake of the patients, the copays, looking at those analysis, running those reports at the end of the day, those are key performance indicators to indicate how much your staff is doing their job and what's missing and how much money was left on the table because they didn't do that part. So your job as an overseer, a manager, practice administrator is to run these reports daily to make sure that your staff is doing what they're supposed to do. And then as far as the providers are concerned, the key performance indicators is going to show, you know, did they complete their charts on time? How long did they take to complete their charts? Those open charts that are at the end of, you know, the week, end of the day, you have to follow those until they're done, right? Especially the reports that come from the hospital if they're running at the hospital. Because yes, providers get suspended for not doing their work at the hospital. You have to monitor that.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah. So those types of things are very, very important when it comes to KPIs, management, oversight, and running those reports.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think about, you know, just in general, some of the things that we deal with. And I feel like, oh my goodness, you know, we need a way to help those practices that don't understand these things. I mean, there's things like in general, like not understanding. I mean, they might know about bundle procedures, and maybe they don't. I mean, in my world, in the surgery world, we have bundles all the time. Like, it may not be as common in other organizations. They have maybe here and there, but in surgery, bundles happen like every day, and like almost every surgery, there's like a bundle.
Yeah.
So things like that, where you have the pushback between what the providers understand versus what the billing team are trying to tell them and the coding teams. And there's always this disconnect. So that's another thing too, is if you're seeing some of these things, get your team to the table and figure out where the holes are. who is basically misunderstanding this concept.
Right. I mean,
And then go after it.
well, I mean, and not only that, Jen, when you think about, because we talked about this a few episodes back, right? The NCCI edits, right? And making sure that they're on in your claim system, one, and then two, making sure that they're updated. Because NCCI edits change, folks. They change. So if your EMR system is not, or your practice management system is not up to date, right? Those NCCI edits and those bundles,
Yep.
you're going to miss some money. It's going to be on the table, right? And then, well, they say, and it's contract specific, because some providers, regardless of bundling, can negotiate in their contract to get those monies regardless. So you got to watch contracts, you got to watch NCCI edits, and definitely watch your practice management system to see if that is something that they should be seeing as far as, denials and everything else.
Exactly. And that's why Maya and I work together so much as a team, because we have been able to help practices see the bottom line with the combination of coding, the combination of understanding the billing side, and then compliance. Like all those three elements together has really made a huge difference. That's when we built the business intelligence package. So this is a nice little thing that we can offer. It's really just a retainer for our clients. They have the confidence and the peace of mind to know we're there every month. They can access us anytime they need to, and it's a really great benefit to them. So, yeah, there's an expense to it, but we always say this, that it's more expensive not to have us. Like if you think about how much money is just going out the door unpaid when we've already shown what we can do. And it's just amazing to see the results and the true help we're giving real organizations to clean up their workflows, to really get together as department specific areas, like all these departments coming together and really talking for the first time in a long
Yeah.
time, really
Yeah.
having real conversations.
Yeah, KPIs, when you're noticing that there's an issue, you got to realize your return on investment, right?
Oh,
The
yes.
return on investment is going to be substantial. Like, I met with the office, one of the offices, and they were like, well, I don't think we need a consultant. I don't think we, I don't, So his partner was like, no, she, right? After I got through talking to them, he was like, when are you coming back? So he was totally on board, but you don't know what you don't know, right? But that's
Sure.
our job, to know what you don't know and point it to you so that there could be an opportunity. There's an opportunity, and especially when you have these third-party billing companies, and the only thing they're doing is hit and send. That's all they do. They don't care about that. Oh, well, we hit the claim, so give us our money, right? Watch your third-party billing contracts too. Don't go by the send amount. Go by the return amount. Because if you send claims, you can send $1 million worth of claims and get $10 worth of payment. So who's losing money? You are, because they are saying that they sent $10 million worth of claims. Give us our money. But if you only got $10, who's losing money? You.
Exactly.
That's where we come in.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how many billing companies they do the percentage these days. I always did it on the payment. So like that was me. Like I only wanted my clients to pay me what I earned.
Yeah.
The money I brought in. I never went by the charge amount, but I guess some do that. I just, that's kind of a foreign concept, because I'm like, no, you should get paid on what you
girl.
brought in. I don't know.
No. I've seen it. Listen. Look at my
Crazy.
face. Yeah, they do it.
Oh, they're trying to fly by.
Girl, I just like, for
Oh,
real?
goodness.
Yeah. At the end of the month, they get paid. A lot of them are based upon what's in the work queue of revenue of claims that have gone out
Oh,
the
good Lord.
door. Yep, not about
Yeah,
the return.
that's some shady stuff right there. I can't even
I'm
tell you.
just saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to watch
Yeah, because
that.
I mean, when you think about how many denials we're seeing on the payer level, you haven't really worked a claim until you've got it paid, because that's the end goal, right? I mean, when you look at the process of billing, yeah, the work by you is just sending it out. That's all you've done so far. But the real work from a biller is understanding the after effects, going after
Yeah.
them to bring the money in. That's the real art that we call the art of billing. is making
Yes.
sure, yes, there is a front end aspect where you have to make sure that it looks good. But once you've done that, the real work is the after effects. Like the real work is getting money to come in. That's where it is. That's what you should be paid for, not
Right.
for the front end stuff, which does matter. But at the end of the day, bringing the check in is what matters to the organization.
Right. I mean, and you mentioned something that's really, really key, Jennifer. It's the art of billing, right? If you have a
Yes,
really good biller, your biller is going to tell you exactly where the holes are. We're not getting paid from. We need to look at, well, I wonder why this is happening, or why they keep saying that they're denied and we got it pre-authorized. Pre-authorized. Those are the types of things your biller is going to say because they're looking at the money, they're looking at the payment, they're posting the payment, they're doing all of these things. So listen to your biller.
exactly, exactly. Now, there are a lot of, things these days that are really helpful. Obviously, we have technology that's helping do a lot of this. There's automations
Yeah.
we can use. And why
Yeah.
not use them? Because there are things that billers can do and coders can do that are so valuable, even if you're doing automation. So
Yeah.
there's so much work that's left on the table that could be gone after by an actual person that needs to be done that we're just ignoring because we're like, oh, well, that's the coder's job, that's the biller's job. But we need to look at technology as our friend and use
Yes.
AI and use automation where it's best suited. But again, it can be helpful if we use it right. We're not replacing people. We're just basically, what are you calling it? I want to say the words recycling, but we're moving them to a new area where they're
Right.
better suited, so we can be more efficient.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think you made a good point too. Do you want the same billing strategy for people that got paid 20 years ago, right? That is now evolving into electronics remittance advices,
Right.
AI to determine what your focus is, what your deficiencies are when it comes to payers. So there's many, many softwares that are out there that do that. But at the end of the day, how are you running your practice as far as revenue cycle management? Are you in the 1990s? Or are you in 2025? And that also is going to indicate how much money you're getting and the way that you're getting it. If you're not
Exactly.
clear or if you're not up to date on how your practice is getting its dollars and how it's being run, you need to really think about a business intelligence package and have some people like Jennifer and I take a look at it and see how your practice can improve, especially when it comes to a lot of dollars hemorrhaging from your office.
Right. So we encourage you to visit our website, healthcareinspiredllc.com, and you can find more information in our show notes. We want to thank you for joining our episode today. We hope you found it helpful and give you a lot of good tips and things to think about for the future on your reporting. Next episode is going to be next week, and we're very excited to take this kind of topic and revamp it into something that we all need to know about. And our teams are struggling. So our KPIs tell us where our teams are struggling, right? And now we have the opportunity to help them because we understand that burnout is real. So next we're going to talk about beyond burnout, cultivating a culture of calm in the workplace because we don't want our teams to get to the point of burnout where they're so stressed out and they don't know where to go. Because sometimes our data can tell us where the stresses lie and we know where our teams need help. And we want to encourage them, create a culture where they feel comfortable coming to leadership and coming to each other and saying, hey, I'm struggling, I need some help. And if you have a culture where that is frowned upon or it's not something they feel comfortable doing, you may have a problem. So let's talk about that. So next week, thanks for spending time with us today. Thank you, Maya, for joining as our beautiful co-host. And let's, of course, keep making our practices more perfect. We will see you guys next time.